Okay, here we are, chapter 4.5%, an estimation. We are estimating, which means, we'll be doing some things like rounding and just thinking about numbers. The first thing they want us to do is they want us to recognize the common fraction equivalences or conversions. It's just real obviously 10% is 10 out of 100, which is the same as 1/10. Okay. 20% is just like that, but it's 2/10, which simplifies down to 1/5. Okay, so easy to do. One of the neat things to know is that 20% is just 10% twice. 1/10, 2/10. Or you can use 1/5. Okay, but sometimes when you're finding percent of a number, you can just, if it's 20%, you can use 10% and do it twice to get that 20% number. 30% obviously is 3/10. Okay, 40%, and I want you to notice here is 4/10, but it simplifies just like 2/10 simplified down to 1/5. 4/10 simplifies down to 2/5. So these two, this one and this one, sort of go together. Okay, it's just it's worth noticing. 50% is sort of a special character. It's 5/10, but what it really is 1/2. Excuse me. 1/2 is important. It's easy to see. 50% is half, just like 100% is a whole. 100% is everything. Okay, so that might be the next one to note. They didn't put it in their list. I'm looking at the list on page 176. But at the very top, 100% is just 10/10, which is the same as one whole. Okay, that's what it is. 100% is all of it. And this should be obvious to everyone. Okay, this should be obvious to everyone, but nothing is obvious all the time. Sometimes we just don't remember. Now there's some others. We're going to just keep moving. Okay, this is our 100%, but we're going to fill in some gaps here. We still have 60%, which is just 6/10, which also rounds down to 3/5. And if you remember, this sort of goes with 1/5, 2/5, and 3/5. 20, 40, 60. Okay, and I guess you might be able to guess that 80%, which is 8/10, is also 4/5. All right, so we've got these kind of all go together, these ones that I'm putting with red. Now we jumped over a couple, and I'm going to put them together. There's one that goes, between 20 and 30 is 25%, and the one that goes between 60 and 80 is 75%. I guess we could put 70 in there. Well, let's not use red. Then it looks like if I use red that I'm using some really important color. 70% is just 7/10. Okay. Now over here I want to, in the same way that 50% is kind of cool. It's 1/2. Let's put these kind of together and single them out. 25% is 25/100ths, which is like 25 cents. Remember, we talk about 1/4 is equal to 25 cents. So 25% is 1/4. Now 50% is 2/4. It's 50 out of 100, but it's also 1/2, so that's kind of important. And 75% is 75 cents out of 100, which is the same as 3/4 or 3/4. All right, so these are important ones. 25, 75. They seem to happen a lot. Don't forget about 90%. 60, 70, 80, 90, which is just 9/10. There's nothing real special about that. 90 is 9/10. We could probably organize these into numbers that seem to go together. Okay, they didn't do anything about like 1/3 or 2/3, which are kind of hard to write down. Maybe that's a good thing that they skipped those. Okay, so if we just highlight something, we've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Okay, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and then 100 is down here. So these are all kind of just general ones, but then we throw in 25 and 75 as really easy ones that are kind of in between those tens. Okay, and 50, of course, is sort of special too because it becomes 1/2, and 100% obviously is just 1. Okay, so there's probably a way for you to remember these, and if you were to write them down and just kind of work out a pattern, you'd probably be able to remember them really well. And just like 10, 20, 30, 40, excuse me, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. These are all special. Well, this one is special. And then in between here is 25%, and in between here is 75%. And this sort of sets it all up. Of course, if we look at the even numbers, 20, 40, 60, and 80, instead of just being 2/10, it's really 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, and 4/5. Okay. Otherwise, it's just 1/10, 3/10. This one's special because it's 1/2. Okay, really special here. 60 is 6. We already have that as 3/5. 7/10, 9/10. Okay. Again, you just got to figure out a way to see them in your head. Now we're estimating, so they're going to say things like 74. I'm going to try to go quick because I know you guys get frustrated if I take too much time. 74% of 800. Okay, now there's a quick way here. We're going to estimate, so we're just going to use 75%. We're going to say, well, that's about 75% of 800. Okay, and I'm going to just change that over to 3/4 times 800. Okay, so it's kind of like 3 times 800 over 4. It's one way to look at it. Another way is if we just say, okay, this is 0, and this is 800. Right here in the middle is 400, and you know that this is 1/2. This is 1/2 of 800. So right here would be 3/4 of 800, and right here would be 1/4 of 800. We cut it up into 1, 2, 3, 4 equal pieces. We can find half, so we can kind of see that this would be 200 and this would be 600. So this is 0 and this is 1 whole. Okay, 0, 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, and 1 whole. So we can see that 3/4 of 800 is 600. We could do that just kind of quickly without even drawing this diagram. If I wanted to use the math, I would say 3/4 times 800, and I'd simplify before I'd multiply, and I'd say, well, 800 divided by 4 is just 200 over 1. And then I'd say 3 times 200 is 600. And I'd get 600 anyway. Either way, you get 600. It's nice to see it in a picture once in a while. That's what's happening. Okay, we're going to round. We might say 99% of 324. Well, we might just go, oh, well, let's just call that about, we'll say it's approximately 100% of 324, which is 324, and we're done. Okay, we're going to estimate here. We're going to round things up. Now, using compatible numbers might be something we have to do if something doesn't work very well. We might say 46% of 177. Okay, now we're gonna find numbers that work together, and it might be that even though we could round this down to 40 if we wanted to. Like compatible numbers would be 40 and 160 because 4 goes into 16. The other compatible numbers would be 50 and 180 because you can cut 180 in half. Okay, so 40% 50%. 50% is nice because it's just 1/2 of 180, which is going to be, half of 80 is 18 is 9, so it would be 90. All right, this one's a little more difficult. Let's see if I have room. We decided that that was 4/10, which is 2/5 times 160. See, now this one doesn't work very well because you can't 5 doesn't go into 16 easily. We'd have to do some real work here. It actually might be easier to do 4/10. Let me rewrite this over here just so we can see it. 40% is 4/10 times 160. And I can cut 160, I can divide that by 10 and just get 16. Okay, and then 4 times 16, I can still do 2 times 16 is 32. So, and 32 times 2 is 64. So 4 times 16 is 64. Not nearly as easy, and apparently not as accurate either as this one. 64 versus 90. These are very different. I'm guessing that the best one here is this one. This is a pretty good way to use compatible numbers. Okay, compatible numbers are important. So let's do one more. 17% times 49, or of 49. Well, again, you might go to 20% of 50. Let's look at that. That is the same as 1/5 times 50. And yeah, that works great because 50/5 is the same as divided by 5 is 10/1. Okay. So you just get 10. Alright, so 17% of 49 is around 10. That actually works pretty well. We just rounded both of those up. We rounded up, but compatible numbers is more than just rounding up or rounding down. It's rounding to something that works. If this hadn't worked, we could have possibly gone to 25% times 50, which is 1/4 times 50. And again, this doesn't work quite as well because 4 doesn't go into 50 easily. It's a little harder. You're going to get some weird things, and 25% of 50 is just tougher. So a compatible number, we might look at this one and go, oh, that one doesn't work very well. Let's try 20% of 50, and we'll see that that does work nicely. And we want to use the ones that work really nicely when we can use compatible numbers. So we're jumping around here, just choosing an estimate. Let's go for the good one, okay? That's really all you have to know. You have to memorize that all the percentages, like 25% is the same as 1/4. It's also the same as 0.25, which looks like 25 cents. Okay, but we need to understand what the fraction equivalent is and use the fractions to simplify our math as much as possible. Okay, let's do it. Talk to you later.